Hey guys, we are here at MACNA in Las Vegas, and I am sitting here with Margaret Miller, Dr. Margaret Miller from SECORE International, who is the research director and has been doing some amazing field work this summer. So we're just going to go over a couple questions that I'm sure you guys are itching to learn about. First thing is, how has the field work been going in the Caribbean?
So we've, I guess, so far had 3 coral spawning events this summer that we've been sort of working with. It's a little bit of a strange year because of the timing of the moon. The coral spawning is timed at a certain number of days after the full moon. And the moon's like at the very end of the month this year, so we've had a little bit of uncertainty if the spawning was going to happen the month before or the month after. So we've been geared up. We didn't get a lot of spawning at the end of July, which we were kind of expecting the elkhorn and staghorn corals at least to spawn at that point in time, and it turns out they really didn't. We know that was true throughout the Caribbean because we have such great communication networks with researchers that are watching coral spawning all over. But this past week, actually, we got pretty good spawning of the elkhorn coral then came through for us, staghorn coral, mountainous star coral, and a couple of the brain corals that we've actually collected. Our different teams have collected larvae and are raising and settling those larvae like right now. I kind of abandoned some of them in Eleuthera to come here and be at MACNA, but they are settling well. So we've got good stuff going on at all of our locations.
Awesome. So for each coral, I know that our 2 main species that we're always looking for is the elkhorn and the staghorn.
Right.
You mentioned the mountainous star coral, and the brain coral.
A couple of brain corals. So there's actually up to 3 different brain coral species that we work with.
Okay. And is there a reason why you use different species?
So certainly a lot of the early work and a lot of the development work that SECORE started was with elkhorn coral primarily. It's a fast-growing coral, and it's one of the ones that's most endangered. So those were both reasons that it was nice to work with early on. As time has gone on, and we've learned that some other species actually are easier. The larvae are actually easier to raise of some of the brain corals, and they seem to survive a little bit better, the settlers. So, which kind of makes sense because if you look on a reef, a lot of times you see a lot more brain coral than you see elkhorn coral. So they're persisting better naturally as well. So it makes sense that they're a little bit easier to culture. So our goal, though, is again when we want to do reef restoration, it isn't just one species that's going to make a reef. We need to restore a lot of different species, and so that's most of our motivation for going after and then making sure and working on techniques that are going to be effective with a range of different species.
Right. And so one of the questions that we've gotten a lot at the booth was people are asking, well, why are you capturing the gametes from the water column and doing this process for them? Why can't these corals do it on their own?
Right. Why do we need to assist so much? Yeah, assisted reproduction is really the business that we're in. And the answer largely for corals, at least in the Caribbean these days, the broadcast spawning corals, their populations have declined so far that there is actually not enough opportunity either for them to spawn together or to have effective fertilization. When you don't have enough corals spawning at the same time, there aren't enough eggs and sperm to sort of overcome the delusion of being in the big wide ocean. So we really feel like, at least in a lot of locations, that fertilization step is a limitation that's actually limiting coral recovery in some places. So that's a major just piece that in the step in the process that we can help easily. The other aspect that we're able to assist with is providing these clean the substrate design that we worked on a lot to provide sort of a especially good habitat for the settlers when they're so tiny starting out. And so that's the other step that we're really working on, providing improvements over when a larva is just in the ocean on itself and trying to find a place on a natural reef to settle. A lot of times there isn't really good clean habitat available to them.
Right.
And so that's the other piece that we're kind of trying to intervene and provide good settlement habitat.
Right. And so we're at MACNA, so I have to throw an aquarium question in here.
Yeah.
I know one of the things I'm a hobbyist and I've been my whole life, and reproduction isn't really something that comes up a lot in the hobby because it just, either people miss it, they never see it in their tank, or it just doesn't happen. I know that there's been some work that's come out about reproduction in in aquariums. Do you think there's a role in the future for reproduction in the aquarium and then for conservation outside?
It's certainly kind of a bit of a holy grail, I think. I mean, I don't know a lot about raising corals in aquaria, so I've been learning a lot here. But certainly I think something everybody would agree, like a major indicator that you have a completely functional organism and a very happy and healthy organism is the process of successful reproduction. And so I think as the hobby has evolved and people, as you said, do see spawning sometimes of different organisms in their tank, that really indicates that they're really being successful and providing them a good home. In the future, I hope that we can work out better leverage from hobbyists to be able to leverage that. SECORE really has focused more on public zoos and aquarium professionals in our network in terms of developing the techniques that we use for coral breeding and larviculture, and working with zoo and aquarium professionals from different places. And that's really the route where we have worked provided a lot of value to what SECORE does. Hopefully in the future we can figure out a way to get hobbyists a little bit more involved. It's challenging. Most hobbyists work with Pacific species, and we're really focusing mostly on Caribbean. It's more Pacific species that people work with in their home aquaria, just because they're not more available. So there are different things that make it challenging to figure out how to make use of that capacity more. Again, moving things from land tanks back into the ocean is usually not, something we want to be really careful about as well. But certainly SECORE has benefited a huge amount from the collective knowledge that coral husbandry has sort of developed over the years.
And I guess the last thing is, I've just noticed in being here, we have SECORE International doing sexual reproduction, we have folks that are doing fragmentation, we have people who are focusing on invasive species. Seems like there's a lot of work right now in the protection of coral reefs, and it seems like the hope for our reefs is coming up. Where's your hope level on our reefs?
I tend to be a pessimist just as my own personality, so I won't say that I'm very optimistic, but I certainly know and recognize, and it's very clear that particularly active restoration, as you point out, is an activity just that has gained huge momentum and enthusiasm, and there's just a lot more groups and people involved in coral restoration. And I think that is a key piece to getting coral populations back to where they need to be. We have to help them out because they've gone too far down the hole. So that active restoration is really important, and people are really stepping up, and a lot of organizations are participating and cooperating towards that goal. And so that's definitely something that's changed for the better just in the past few years, where those efforts have really bumped up.
Awesome.
And SECORE is excited to be a part of that.
Awesome. So, well, thanks so much. I think
it's great to have you here, Mitch, with us.
It gives me a lot of hope, and I'm sure it gives all the For the Reef customers and our group. It really inspires me, at least, to see people like you really dedicate their lives to protecting our reefs, and we all thank you. So from us to you, thank you.
Greatly appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Mitch. It's been great to have you here with us.